Hey guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be talking about the best fantasy books of the last decade. So I've been meaning to do a video kind of like this where I talk about like some of the best fantasy books that I've ever read. I don't think I really have like an all-time favorite just fantasy alone video, so this is kind of that, but it's only looking at books that were published between 2010 and 2019. And I tried to only include books that I've read in this list. I'm going to be ranking them from number 10 to number 1, but there are like some that it's like one book in a series I've read, but I'm pretty sure like once I finish the series, it's gonna be amazing. I'm putting those on the list too. But like, I would have read at least one of the books in the series for it to make this list. So in this list, I'm including all age ranges. So like middle grade, adult, YA, all of that. And we're gonna talk about some of the best books that were released within the last decade. So coming in at number 10, we have The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. So I remember the first time I read this book, I was a little disappointed by it. I thought it could have been a lot better. I recently reread this book and was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. This is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles. It's the sequel to The Name of the Wind. The Name of the Wind came out before 2010, but this one was released in 2011, and it is a fantastic book. It has fantastic world building. It has a really interesting main character who has a lot of adventures and different things. The way this book is written, it's highly consumable. I cannot stop reading it once I pick it up. And while I think the second book is not as good as the first book in the series, I did still really enjoy it, and it definitely makes my top 10 for fantasy. And I think I ended up giving this one a 4.5 stars. So for those of you who haven't read the Kingkiller Chronicles, this follows a character named Kuang, who is now an innkeeper, and he's telling the story of how he became basically a legend in this world. So the majority of the story is from his younger self, and it's following his life through the university and some of his other adventures that he goes on. The third book in this series is not out yet. I'm hoping that it'll come out soon, but it is a fantastic series that I do recommend. So the next books on this list is the continuation of the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie, and in the 2010s this continued on with The Heroes, Red Country, Sharp Ends, and A Little Hatred. So out of all four of these books, I've actually only read The Heroes, which is the only reason that it's so low on this list, because I have a feeling when I finally get to A Little Hatred, this one will get bumped up quite a bit. But The Heroes, Red Country, and Sharp Ends are standalone novels within the First Law world, and A Little Hatred is the first book in the next trilogy that takes place in this world. So the First Law world series starts out with the First Law trilogy, which you can see up here on my shelf, with the Blade itself, the Before They Were Hanged, and The Last Argument of Kings, before moving on to the standalone novels, which includes Best Served Cold and the other ones that I mentioned here. This series is fantastic. It has a fantastic world, some of the best unlikable characters that I have ever read, and really great plots. I absolutely enjoy every single book in this series. I have yet to have given one of these books less than 5 stars. I came pretty close to it with The Heroes just because it follows kind of the characters that I typically don't like as much as some of the other characters, but somehow the ending still got me to give that book 5 stars. This book is highly political. There's some really interesting machinations going on in this series, and it's very gritty and dark, and I love every second of the series, and it is one that I highly recommend. I absolutely love this series, and I cannot wait to continue on with these next books and to see what else is coming out in the next decade, because like I said, this is the first book in the next trilogy, so I'm really excited to see what else Joe Abercrombie has in store for us in this series, because I bet it's going to be amazing. So the next book that I have to mention on this list is A Memory of Light by Robert Jordan and Brent Sanderson. This is the finale of the Wheel of Time series, and it came out in 2013. This series is the series that really got me into adult high fantasy. I absolutely love this series. It follows kind of a lot of the same tropes that you would expect from like classic high fantasy, because it starts out with village boys with this very big chosen one trope. It has some fantastic world building. It has a lot of really strong female characters. It has such a fun magic system that I absolutely love. And there are so many different complex story threads that just are woven in throughout this entire series. It is an epic series because it is 14 novels long, and as you can see, they are huge. And A Memory of Light was just such a great conclusion to the series. It was definitely very satisfying and has tons of action in it. Like, there's this final battle because, of course, all like classic fantasy series has a final battle. And I believe like the chapter for that final battle is like 300 pages long. Not lying. Like, this was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I really do think the Wheel of Time series is a great starter series if you want to get into adult high fantasy. Even though it's so huge and so intimidating because of that, it is super easy to read and it has a nice pace to it that it's just easy to fall into and just like love the characters. So I highly recommend this series as well. So the next series that I have to mention on this list is the Lightbringer series by Brent, which includes The Black Prism, The Blinding Night, The Broken Eye, The Blood Mirror, and The Burning White. So this series is one that came out all entirely within the decade, which I think is amazing that an author can write such an epic long series like within a decade. It is a fantastic series. It's kind of following a family called the Giles. Kind of main character in the series is Gavin Gile, who is the Black Prism, which means that he's basically the most powerful person in the world because the magic system is based off of color, and then all of the magic users can draft colors, but most people can only draft one or maybe 2 or 3 colors, and the Prism can draft all of the colors. And before the series began, there were basically 2 of them. There were 2 brothers, and there wasn't supposed to be 2 people who could draft all of the colors. There's only supposed to be like 1 in every generation. And then of course there's this bastard son that shows up out of nowhere who can also draft all of the colors. So it's definitely a very interesting series. It has a really great setup. This is another one that gets very political at times. It has great world building, wonderful characters. Most of them are very unlikable characters, but they're fantastic. And it's one of those series that is just super fast paced that draws you in the entire time, and I loved every second of it as well. So the next fantasy books we have on this list is the Nevermoor series by Jessica Townsend, which includes Nevermoor and Wondersmith. So this series is a middle grade series that recently started coming out, and I absolutely love it. It's following a character of Morgan Crow, who is a cursed child, which basically means she's supposed to die on her 11th birthday, but instead she's whisked away by Jupiter North to join a competition to join the Wondrous Society, and the story just takes off from there. I absolutely love the world building in this series because it's super whimsical and outrageous, but at the same time, like, it makes complete sense within the context of the story. So I absolutely love that aspect of it. I also really love the main character, Morgan Crow, as well as a lot of the side characters. Jupiter North is fantastic. I love Morgan's best friend, Hawthorne. There's another character that is really fantastic that I really love is Cadence Blackburn. Like, at first, in the first book, like, it's kind of like, do we like Cadence? Do we not like Cadence? And the second book is kind of like, I think I kind of like Cadence. But she's fantastic. She's one of those, like, kind of weirder characters, but is written really well, and I absolutely love it. And we're not really sure if she's a likable character or not, but at the same time, I love her because of that. And there's also a Magnificat, which I'm not gonna say what it is because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but it's fantastic. It's often compared to the Harry Potter series, which I completely understand because it has a lot of the same structural elements to it that the Harry Potter series has. And in Nevermoor, there's the Nevermoor itself, the city of Nevermoor, which is very fantastical and has a lot of different things that you wouldn't expect from a city. And of course, there's the Hotel du Deculion, which is where Morgan lives, and like her room changes to fit her personality and stuff like that. So there's just so many just like fun, magical, whimsical things about the series that I absolutely love and highly recommend, especially if you love middle grade. And the next book on this list is the Poppy War series by R.F. Kuang, which includes The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic. This series is one that really changed how I look at fantasy. I absolutely love that this is an Asian-inspired grimdark fantasy. It has great historical context because it's inspired by a lot of the history of China, but it's done in a way that I absolutely love it. It's following the main character of Rin, who at the beginning of the novel is trying to get into this academy called Sinagard, which is a school basically for the military. While the first half of the Poppy War is a little bit slower, like about halfway through, this book gets super action-packed, and then the Dragon Republic is action-packed the entire way through, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love the main character Rin, who is ruthless, so ambitious and driven and I love her. There are a lot of other characters as well that are involved in this story, and it's done in a way where their relationships are really complex, and there are times when this gets really deeply emotional, and there are definitely some scenes that are a little gruesome because, like I said, this is grimdark fantasy, but it's done in the best way possible, and I absolutely love this series. So the next book on this list is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So I feel like this one is going to be a bit of a controversial pick. It is a contemporary adult fantasy, and it is not particularly plot driven. Like, this book is definitely driven more by world building and writing style than it is by plot and character, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but it has some of the most beautiful world building that I've ever seen, and the writing in this book is amazing. I absolutely love the writing in this book. It has the most beautiful dynamic images that I've ever seen. Every time I pick it up, I feel like I'm watching a movie because I can see it playing out in front of me as I'm reading the book. Especially the audiobook. The audiobook is really, really well done, and I absolutely love it. So this book is following two characters, Celia and Marco, who as children are chosen to be part of this game. Celia is chosen by her father, Prospero the Enchanter, and Marco is chosen by his opponent, the Gray Man. They're in kind of like a battle of strength sort of thing with magic, but they don't really know what the end game is. They don't know how to end the competition or even what they have to do to be on the winning side. And all they know is that the setting for the competition is the Night Circus, which is a circus that only shows up at night and is magical, mostly because they keep making it more and more magical. It is such a beautiful novel. It's written so beautifully, and like I said, has some of the best images. And while I did find the plot and characterization a little bit disappointing the first time around, I absolutely love it more and more every time I reread it. So the next book on this list is The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson, which includes The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer. So this series is obviously extremely popular because it's Brandon Sanderson, and it is his huge epic fantasy series that is going to be like 10 novels long. The first 3 novels in the series came out within the 2010s. So far I've only read The Way of Kings, but even having just read the first one, I think it warrants a number 3 on this list. It is a fantastic epic world with interesting magic, and I love the characters and how political the plot of the series gets. It gets very political, but at the same time has a lot of great action, and the ending of The Way of Kings is fantastic. Like, I absolutely loved it, and I'm excited to see where all of these characters are going because there's a ton of really, really great characters that are obviously gonna have really, really great plot lines. Unfortunately, I couldn't put it higher on this list because I've only read the first one in the series, and the other 2 books I'm sure are fantastic. So I am really excited to continue on with the series, and hopefully I'll end up liking it as much as I think I will, and can read the future books that are coming out in the series, which, by the way, Rhythm of War, the 4th book in the series, has been announced, and it's coming out in November of 2020, which I am so excited for. So the next books on this list is the Fitz and the Fool trilogy by Hobb, which includes Fool's Assassin, Fool's Quest, and Assassin's Fate. So this is the 5th and final, mini-series within the umbrella of The Realm of the Elderlings by Hobb, and it is a fantastic finale. I absolutely love this trilogy. It is by far my favorite of all of the mini-series within The Realm of the Elderlings. Assassin's Fate is my favorite book in the entire series. It is absolutely fantastic. So The Realm of the Elderlings is a huge epic fantasy series where there are 3 trilogies following the character Fitz Chivalry Farseer, including Fitz and the Fool, which is the 3rd and final series following that character. And there are also 2 other series following characters in another part of the world. The first one following the Bingtown Traders, and the second one following the Rainwall Traders. And in this series, Fitz Chivalry Farseer is the bastard son of the king in waiting, and he's trained as an assassin to serve the crown, and tons and tons of things happen. The reason why the Fitz and the Fool trilogy is my favorite is because it just wraps up all of the little plot storylines, all of the little tiny loose threads that happen throughout the entire series come together in this final book, and is done so well. Such a fantastic, satisfying ending to a long and sometimes bitter series. This is a series where I absolutely fell in love with the characters. It has some of the best characterization that I've ever seen in a fantasy series, and I absolutely love it. It has beautiful world building, really great writing, and like I said, wonderful characters. I will say though, this is a series for people who want to read for the long game, because it is a slow series, but you definitely can just fall into this world and live in this world for a little while because of how detailed this world is. And I absolutely love every second of this series, especially this last book. This last book was so well done. Like, it makes me want to reread this entire series, but I literally just read it, so we're gonna wait at least a year. I absolutely love this series and definitely recommend it. Though I don't recommend starting out with the Fitz and the Fool trilogy, which came out in the 2010s. I do recommend starting with the first series, the Farseer trilogy. And my #1 favorite fantasy book of the 2010s is A Dance with Dragons by George R.R. Martin. I don't know if this was obvious to you guys or not, because I don't talk about this very often on my channel, probably because of how embarrassing it is that this is one of my favorite series of all times. Like, seriously, I love A Song of Ice and Fire, and while A Dance with Dragons is probably like my second to least favorite in the entire series, I still absolutely loved it. Like, this series changed reading for me in a way that might not have been a good thing at the time, but it still like holds a very dear place in my heart, and I absolutely love it. I don't have to talk about how great the series is because you guys probably have heard about it, but it has fantastic characters, fantastic plot, really great plot twists, and it's in a very well built world, and it's done in a way that you're not expecting things to get as crazy as it does. It's done in sort of this dry sort of writing style, so it lulls you into this sense of complacency, and then it has a way of like just shocking you with the crazy stuff that happens in this series, and I absolutely love it. I love all of the characters, even the ones that you're supposed to hate. I love hating those characters. I love all of the twists and turns in the series. I love the world. I love how political it gets, because it gets very political. I like how dark and gritty it gets at times. I love everything about the series. Like, there's nothing about the series that I don't like, other than the fact that it takes like 10 years for the next book to come out, but it's fine. Like, it's fine. The 6th book in the series obviously is not out yet, so when they finally announce the release date of Winds of Winter, you guys are gonna see me go crazy. But I absolutely love the series, and it definitely changed everything about how I read in the 2010s. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it up in the cards for you guys, because I did an entire journey of my reading in the 2010s. I absolutely love the series, and I cannot wait for the next one to come out. So those are my top 10 books / series that came out in the decades of the 2010s. Let me know down in the comments if you've read these books, and what are your top 10 fantasy books that came out in the last decade. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm actually going to be changing up my video schedule. So starting next week, I'm going to be posting videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!